Reflections on Tisha B'Av in the year 2011. First of all, for those who don't know, Tisha B'Av is the 9th of Av. It comes usually in August, and it marks the saddest day in the Jewish calendar, a full 24-hour fast. It represents, in the main, the destruction of the first temple by Nebuchadnezzar and the Babylonians in 586 BCE, and then about 600 years later in 70 CE, the rebuilt temple destroyed by the Romans, again on the 9th of Av in 70 CE. Lots of other tragedies occurred on the 9th of Av, or right around it, like the expulsion of Jews from Spain in 1492 and many others. Now there are various angles to Tisha B'Av, but one of the questions we have today is why continue to mourn these events even though we have the State of Israel. We're celebrating the State of Israel today, and so why do we continue to remember these tragic events from thousands of years ago? There are many other ways we remember them too. For example, when you're painting a house, you're supposed to leave a little part of the corner unfinished to remember. At a wedding, of course, we break a glass at the end in remembrance of the destruction of the temples, and other ways in which we remember. So first of all, the question is remembering good? And in this case, we have to have a memory. You've heard the expression, those who don't recall the past will be condemned to repeat it. And I think if you just look around at the world today and you see how precarious the situation is and how endangered Israel is, despite being one of the most powerful nations in the world with a tremendous army and air force and all kinds of defense cooperation with the United States, we are rapidly approaching a nuclear Iran, which it seems like nobody in the world is going to stop. Although the IDF, it seems today, said to Israel they should strike Iran, although the Mossad seems to be opposed to it, so we'll have to check into that. But in any case, it's clear the United States is not going to stop a nuclear Iran, and it'll have cataclysmic results for the world, as you'll see. I predict in 10 years there'll be all kinds of horrible, horrible, tragic chaos beyond our imagination from this decision to allow Iran to have a nuclear arm. So there's plenty of reasons to worry, and for that alone we should have a day of national mourning and recalling the destruction of Jerusalem and the temples. Now, it's not just the temples that were destroyed. We have to remember other things too. A horrible war was lost. The war against the Romans for independence, political and religious freedom was lost, basically in 70. There was a huge massacre of Jews. The dispersion of the Jews took place. We lost independence and unity, and wholesale changes occurred in Jewish life. Jews were taken into slavery and to Rome, and all of those events have to be recalled when we recall not just the destruction of the temple, but those very, very serious events. And so, for those reasons, we commemorate Tisha B'Av, we think about Tisha B'Av. So some of the customs, as I've explained in my other video about Tisha B'Av, are sitting on the floor and reading and chanting the Book of Lamentations, Echa. It's got a very haunting melody. Echa yashva bada da 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 da. And the week before, which is this week, Shabbat Chazon, when I'm recording this, we read passages reflecting on the upcoming tragedy in the commemoration of Tisha B'Av. So I think even though we are now well into the 62nd year of Israel's existence in the modern era, the Third Jewish Commonwealth, we recall that for a vast period of 2,000 years we did not have a Jewish Commonwealth. We prayed for it, so we should be celebrating. But one day a year it's okay to set aside to think about the tragedies of Jewish history, and of course, not to mention the Holocaust, but there's a separate day for commemorating that, but still to think about the events of what it means to have a destroyed Jerusalem and to resolve that the words never again mean never again, and that the world's got to take notice and stop those enemies who want to hurt Israel and reverse this trend of anti-Semitism. Israel is the greatest country in the world by far per capita, and one of the greatest countries in the world even just on its own, without adding the words per capita, per person. It can contribute amazingly, as it has. Most of the generic drugs in your medicine cabinet come from Israel, your cell phone, your computer, on and on and on and on and on. Just let Israel alone to do their magic. But to do that, we have to remember the dangers that are represented to Israel today and the dangers that were represented to Israel and the Jewish people in the past. Shalom.